us more.
True.
But I don't want to hit it.
All right, 6.4. Writing linear equations. Writing linear equations. Okay. So basically, yesterday, y'all were given linear equations. Or they gave you some weird equation and you had to turn it into the slope-intercept form. And then you had to graph it. So you had to look at the equation and graph it based on that. Well, today, there's not going to be any graphing. Okay, so y'all can take a break from that. But now they're going to give you certain like clues, and you have to write the linear equation from the clues they gave you, basically. Okay? And today it's not that bad. It's really not. But and there's not a whole lot that you're learning that's new today. So let's recap. The slope intercept form is what?
Y equals mx plus b.
Yep. Guys, you need to get on to the IXL and start practicing what is the slope. What letter is the slope? What letter is the y-intercept?
B.
If you are still having trouble remembering that, then the only way to solve it is by practicing over and over again. Let's say that this is an area that you get confused on. Okay, let's say this is an area you're confused on. Let's say you get on, you do the IXL that I assigned, you worked until you got an 80. But you're still struggling. Are you done because you followed the rules and you went to 80, or should you keep practicing?
You should keep practicing.
You should keep practicing. Okay? That's the only way that you're going to finally get it. Let's say you did that specific IXL yesterday. Take a couple of days off and then do it again. If you miss, then you just keep working. You got to keep coming back to it. If you find the area that you're struggling and you keep going back to it like every other day, keep going back to it every other day, it'll finally, eventually, stick in your brain. But you've got to stay on it if you're struggling, okay? When graphing, when we're about to graph, what is the first thing that we put on our Cartesian plane? This is the first thing you plot. I'm just going to put first. That's the first thing you stick on that graph is that dot. You have to understand that. All right, so let's move on. Today, again, like I said, yesterday and everything, you learned about this and how to graph from this, how to read it. What is the slope? What's the y-intercept? How to graph from this. But today we're going to do the opposite. I'm going to give you these kind of things and you've got to write the equation. So it's not that bad. So we're going to start with an example. And we're going to start slow. Let's say that the slope is 2 over 3 and the y-intercept, which is b, is 0, -5. So really, what is the y-intercept in this? -5. Y'all have that written down? When you do, put your pencils down so I know you're done. Okay. So if our slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, all we're going to do is substitute the m and the b for the information they gave us. So if this is m, we're going to stick it here. And here's my y-intercept, and we're going to stick it there. So then my answer is y equals 2/3 x minus 5. And there's my answer. They gave us the clues, and there's my equation, my linear equation.
This is basically all we're gonna
Well, that's the very first example. You think it's all going to be that easy?
try?
No.
But is
But this is the concept that we're tackling today. So some of these are going to be a little bit more work, but that's what we're getting to. Now, if we were to graph, Cecilia, what would I plot on my Cartesian plane first? Bingo. And then my slope. Up to, right 3. Y'all need to practice those slopes on IXL because some of you are still making mistakes on just your slope alone, going up, down, left, and right, stuff like that. So anyway, be practicing those. Okay, so yes, this is what we're tackling today. Let's do another one, a little more in depth. Let's say write the equation of a line passing through the point of 1, 5 with a slope of 3. Now, 6th and 7th grade doesn't understand why I make y'all write so many words. And I've told them, I said, ask any Algebra 1 student why I make y'all write so many different things. And they'll tell you. Because exactly what the younger grades are learning, they'll go to a problem that's written slightly different, the actual problem, than some of the other problems that we've done or the examples we've done. And they're like, well, I don't understand what it means passing through, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's why all my examples look different and there's a lot of different words and everything. And I make y'all write them so that if you come to a problem that looks a little different, oh yeah, we did do one of those. Okay, so we're wanting to write an equation, linear equation, of a line. The line is passing through this x and this y and has a slope of 3. Now, I have had students that instead of doing all the work, they just got out graph paper and they put a dot on 1, 5 and then did the slope. They did a Cartesian plane, found where x1, y5 was, put a dot, and then they started doing the slope, 3 over 1, 3 over 1, 3 over 1. And they graphed the line. I said, absolutely. If it asked to graph it, you absolutely could do that. But I'm going to tell you, it doesn't always work. Because your book, for things that you need to graph, usually the equation is perfect. Okay? It's like perfect. It's easy to graph. When all they're asking for is the equation, sometimes it's weird. In this case, it's not, but sometimes it's weird. Okay. And if you're sitting there going, what is she talking about? Don't worry about it. All right, so here we go. We're going to write the equation. So what does our equation need to look like again? And you're going to see me write this over and over again because, and you should too, it gives you a visual. I know you did not just throw down your glasses.
Oh, they fell off my face.
Taylor's mom, if you're watching this, his glasses fell off his face. His brand new glasses somehow just flew off his face and onto the floor. We have a ghost in the class that's picking on Taylor. All right. Here we go. Do we know the slope?
Yes.
It's what?
3.
It's 3. So back here, we had the slope. We were able to just stick it in there, right? They also up here gave us the y-intercept. We could just stick it in. But did they give us the y-intercept this time?
No. No.
Y-intercept.
Yeah.
No. That's not the y-intercept.
Oh.
They said the line's passing through this point, but it's not the y-intercept. Remember, y-intercept would be 0 and a number. Okay? So that's just a random point. So we don't know the y-intercept, so we're going to have to solve for it. So since we have we have our slope, we're going to go ahead and we're going to insert that into the M. And look, guys, before you start writing, you see this X? Y'all all see this? Gabby, do you see it? We're going to put that X right here. And you see that Y? We're going to put that Y right there. So then my Y is 5. My slope is 3. My X is 1. And we don't know our B. So I'm going to write that and pause and let y'all catch up. I want you to look at this, and before I move on, you better tell me if you have any questions. Any questions on where we got that? None? All right, so they gave us the slope, so I put that in place of M. They gave us this point, our X and our Y, and all I did was sub them into the X and Y in our formula, our form. Now I solve. What is 3 times 1?
4. Oh, wait. 3.
Now what do I do if I'm solving for B? Emily, what do I do if I'm solving for B? That means I want B all by itself. Wait, do I add 3? There you go. So I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides. Taylor? Is that you?
Yeah.
Taylor? Self-control. Do you understand? This is our last discussion. So then I end up having 2 equals B. Does everyone see that? And understand where I got it from? Does everyone understand? Okay, so they gave us the slope. I substituted X, Y, and everything, solved for my y-intercept. So now I know that my y-intercept's 2. Now I can go back just like I did up here at the top. And I have my formula again is y equals mx plus b. I have my slope is 3, so 3x plus 2. There's my answer. All I did was put in the y-intercept and the slope. Let me know if you do not understand before I move on. Yes, that's a lot of arrows. So when they give you the slope and the point, you know what you got to do. Substitute the slope, x, y, solve for b. Now that you have your b and your slope, you can rewrite with your slope and your b. Got it? Anyone have questions? All right, let's move on. Okay. Now, what if it says write an equation of the line passing through 1, 3, and 4, -2. Okay, so this last example we did, they gave us 1 point and a slope. Did some substituting, solve for B, and you're good to go. This time they didn't give us any slope or y-intercept. We have no idea what it is. They gave us 2 points. Here's our formula. Y equals mx plus b. We do not know the slope, and we do not know the y-intercept. So in this case, when they give us 2 points, we have to solve it very differently. When you have these 2 points, here's what I tell my students to do. x1, y1, x2, y2. Who can remember the formula to find the slope? Cecilia?
y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1.
Perfect. So the first thing we're going to do is find the slope. And that's what this formula is right here. Slope. That's how you find the slope. So let's go ahead, because remember last time they gave us the slope, all we need to do is find the b. Well, now we got to find both. So first let's find the slope. So I have -2, because y2 is -2, minus y1, which is 3, over x2, which is 4, minus x1, which is 1. -2 and -3 is -5. 4 minus 1 is 3. So there's my slope. All right, I found my slope. So half the work is done. Now I got to do like what we just did to find my y-intercept. So just like the last example, here is my formula. I'm going to start substituting. For the slope, it's -5 over 3 times x. Now here's what I do. I typically use whichever point is the easiest. Okay? Like this one has no negatives. I typically, just out of habit, I choose my first point and I use it. So my x is 1. We don't know my y-intercept. And the y is 3. So I'm going to pause to see if you know where I got this. This is just like the last example. I'm choosing this point and I'm substituting this x for x and that 3, which is the y, for this y. Do you see where I got the 3 and the 1? And then here's the slope that we just solved for. Does everyone understand that? You understand? Michaela, do you understand?
I'm looking at it,
Okay, so they gave us 2 points. I use this formula to find the slope. Okay?
yeah. So you can use either point then?
For this?
Yes.
Yes. You could have put 4 right here and -2 right here. But you got to be consistent. You either use this one or this one to set. Good question. Anyone else have a question? All right, so now we work. What is negative 5 over 3 times 1? Negative 5 over 3 plus b. That's another reason why I chose this one. I'm like, oh yeah, anything times 1 is itself. That's going to be easy. Okay, so now, like the last one that Emily did, we've got to solve for b. We got to isolate the variable, have b all by itself. So if I'm subtracting 5 over 3, I need to add 5 over 3 on both sides. That crosses out. So 3 over 1 plus 5 over 3. Does everyone know why I'm doing this? Because we're adding a whole number 3 to 5 over 3. Got to have common denominators, which would be 3. 1 goes into 3, 3 times. So 3 times 3 is 9. So I get 14 over 3. So my y-intercept is 14 over 3. Wouldn't that be fun to graph? If ever you have an improper fraction for your y-intercept, change it to a mixed number. Makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so now I have my slope and I have my y-intercept. Here's what my equation's supposed to look like. All I do is substitute. The slope was negative 5 over 3. So negative 5 over 3. X, and then here's my y-intercept. So plus 14 over 3.
I thought B was Y.
It's your y-intercept, but it's not y. Any questions? So this is all we're doing today.
We don't love it.
Not too bad, right? Make sure your notes are nice and neat so that you can look back at them if you need to. Put your pencil down when you're done writing so I know you're done. All right. Open your books to page 252 for examples. Number 1. I'm looking around, making sure everyone's got y'all ready? I'm still waiting for people to open their books.
Oh.
All right. Read the directions, Michael.
Write the equation with the line with the given slope and y-intercept.
Okay, so number 1, they want you to write, just like we did the very first one, they want you to write the equation, which is this. They gave you the slope, which is negative 5, and they gave you the y-intercept of 0 and 10. Michael, how would your equation look like with that information?
Y equals negative 5 times plus 10.
Very good, Michael. Any questions? In this case, they gave you everything you needed. All you had to do was substitute it in. Isn't that nice? Any questions? All right, let's look at 5. It sounds easy, but this could be weird. So they give you this time a slope of 0 and the y-intercept as 0, 7. If we need it to look like this, Gabby. You want to do this one? All right. Go ahead. All right, now, hold on. So we're subbing the 0 in and the 7 in. What is 0 times x? It's 0, right? So then, how would the equation then look like? Bingo. If you write 0x, it technically would have to be wrong. Technically would have to be wrong. Okay? Now, yes, we can sit there and say, well, common sense, there's no slope. Okay, you're right. You're absolutely 100% correct. However, 0 times x is 0. So it's written like this. That's why I do that example. Any questions? And we know, would that graph be vertical or horizontal? Horizontal. Crossing that y right at that 7. No slope. None. All right, let's do another. Let's do number 7. All right, this time they give you graphs and you have to decide from the graph what your equation is going to look like. This should be good. Number 7. Taylor. Look at number 7. Now remember, I want everyone looking at this because you will have this on your test. Here's what your form, your equation is supposed to look like. So, what is the one thing that you can look at that and tell already?
The wires.
Yes, sir. Look what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and put my y and my x there. So, Taylor, the y, everyone pay attention. Look at number 7. The one thing I always tell you to graph first is the y-intercept. It's where your line crosses that y-axis. That's your point. So your b, your y-intercept is what, Taylor?
-2.
That's right. Your b is -2. Your y-intercept. Does everyone see that before I move on? Emily, do you see that? Okay, good. Now, start right there at that y-intercept and tell me what the slope is.
3/2.
Your slope is 3/2. So here's your equation. Good job, Taylor.
Thank you.
Now, I want everyone to start at that y-intercept of -2 and tell me if you can see where he got 3/2. If you don't, you need to let me know. I'll give y'all a second. Does everyone see? Cecilia, do you see where he got it? Huh? Michael? Whit? Aiden? Kayla? Okay. Let's look at number 9. Emily. We need it to look like this. Look at your graph on number 9. The first thing you can find is your y-intercept. where does the line cross the y-axis, Emily?
It looks like it's only halfway.
Positive 1 on the y-axis? Okay, so you're looking at the y-axis, right? Huh? Okay, so the up and down line, right? And it crosses at negative what? Perfect. Yeah, that's correct. So the y-intercept is -1. Good job. Now, so you start there, put a little dot right there. Find another place on your graph where that line crosses an intersection. And see if you can figure out the slope. And Emily, when you find that out, you let me know. Okay, so if you found your dot where it crosses, start at your that -1 and count up. Draw your little map. That's right. It goes up 3 and over. So then it's 3/1. Good job. You can write either 3/1 or 3 as your slope. They're both the same thing. You have to know that whenever they give you just one number, to grab it, you have to put it over 1. Correct? So if you were to write your answer as, and we insert our slope here, if you were to write it as 3/1x minus 1, that's not incorrect. That's okay. Or you can do y equals 3x minus 1. Whoops. Those are the same things. And that's absolutely okay. Any questions? Good job, y'all. Does everyone have this down? You have it down? Taylor, you got it? Okay. I got 2 more for y'all. Now I'll set you free. 11. It says, write the equation of the line passing through the given point with a slope. So for 11, they gave you a point. They gave you 2 and -5. And they gave you the slope of -3. So remember, this is your x. You don't have to put a 1 there. And that's your y. We need it to eventually look like this. So, Cecilia, what do I do?
Y equals -3x. Right?
Plus b? Okay, but we gotta find our b, correct? So how do we find the b? What can we do with this x and y? Excellent.
Can I borrow your brush again?
Yes. Right back there. Yeah, okay. Okay, so I'm going to substitute the y for -5. I'm going to insert my slope, which is -3, times the x plus b. Very good. Does everyone understand that? So took the x, stuck it in there, stuck the y, stuck it there, and the slope there. All right. -3 times 2 is what, Cecilia? -6 plus b. Now what do I do, Cecilia? So you add 6, and you get 1 equals b. So now I have my y-intercept and my slope. So what should your final answer look like, Cecilia? once you get it written down.
Y equals -3x+1.
Perfecto. Excellent. Any questions? Very good. Everyone have this down? I'm going to wait till all pencils are down so I know. Okay, one more. 19. All right, this time it says write an equation or write the equation of the line passing through these 2 points. They gave us 4, 2, and -3 and 9. And they want us to write the equation of a line that's going through. So again, you could put on your Cartesian plane this point and this point, connect the 2 dots, and now you've graphed it. No big deal. But they want you to write the equation given these. So Aiden, what do I do?
So you would you're trying to fill the slope, so you would do y1, x1 and y1,
Okay, so we have x1, y1,
and x2, y2.
x2, y2. Good. And so the first thing we need to do is find the slope. And what formula do I use?
Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x4.
Perfect. So my x2, my y2 is 9 minus 2 for y1. And then my x2 is
-3
minus 4. Good. So 9 minus 2 is
7.
over.
-7.
So 7 divided by -7 is,
-1.
that is your slope. 7 over -7 is, of course, your slope, but you have to put it in lowest terms, which would be -1.
So it would be -1/1.
Yep, if you're actually graphing it, it would look like -1/1. If you were to graph 7 over -7, you'd get the same line. You'd get the same slope. Yes.
Or 1 over -1.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so now what do I do?
You would take one of like pairs, and then you would sub them out as the x and the y.
Which one are you going to choose?
That's the one you choose.
So he's going to choose that point, and we're going to substitute it along with the slope into this form. So the slope is going to go here. We have the x1 and the y1. So then we have, what's y?
2.
Equals
We call it -1
times
times 4
4
plus
plus
b.
b.
Where did you get 2?
Right here.
Oh, okay.
You got it?
English drivers.
I was trying to not draw a bunch of arrows. Yes, Taylor? Do you have a question?
Yeah, well, while doing this, I somehow did, y2 minus x, minus x2.
Be
Sorry,
careful.
Y2 minus x1.
Okay.
And all that, and I got the right answer.
Well, don't do that all the time, okay? All right, so what is -1 times 4?
-4.
So 2 equals -4 plus b. Now I
Yeah.
add 4 on both sides. And so your y-intercept is 6. So now I have my slope and I have my y-intercept. So what is my final answer?
Y equals -1x plus 6.
Perfect. Any questions? Okay, you're going to be doing page 252 to 255. you're gonna be doing two through 26 even. That's 13 problems. Honors. 6 through 26 even. Plus 36 and 38. This is due Friday. Your IXL due, well, Thursday, since today is Thursday.
Oh.
So next Thursday, yes. Okay? Your test is Thursday. Okay? Any questions? All right, get to work.